Are you not entertained? Thank you. Welcome to OEB 21. And look, we've got a lot of stuff to get through. We have a very exciting session lined up for you. I'm your MC. I'm going to be here for about 2 minutes, and then I'm going to get off the stage. I'm Donald Taylor. I just want to say a couple of things. Firstly, it's going to be a great session. We're going to have fun. Inge's got a lot of stuff lined up. It's going to be exciting. Before we get started, we should acknowledge, and I'll say this tomorrow, that it hasn't been an easy couple of years for a lot of people. So I want to say thank you. Thank you for doing the mask thing. Thank you for doing the tests. Thank you for gathering here together, coming together. Because we learn a lot when we share with each other. And you know what? We've learned a lot in the past couple of years about how we can learn really well online together. That's great. But nothing's going to quite ever replace the business of sharing together face-to-face. Actually, we're doing both at the moment because we are streaming live and we're doing it face-to-face. Thank you for gathering together and sharing. And we're going to begin a great session of sharing now. Collaboration, coming together, learning from each other in a battle. Inge, how does that work with the whole collaborative thing?
The collaboration will be felt. At first, some of you are seated in your seats and you think, I'm just going to relax. I'm going to learn. But after hearing one or two speakers, you will feel that you want to energize, you want to stand up and you want to shout out your own best learning solution. So that's how I think that collaboration comes up.
Fantastic. Yeah. Are we going to reveal what's underneath this?
Please do, Don.
Well, underneath this, now, it is a fabulous trophy.
This is why you will be doing it.
Inge will reveal in a moment what you will be doing, but one person in the room will be lucky enough to have their name put on this trophy. It's too valuable, obviously, for us to let you walk away with it, but your name will go on the base of the trophy for what I hope becomes an OEB tradition of the learning battle to begin it. Inge, I'm going to get off the stage, let you start off and explain what is going on. Inge de Waard.
So, good evening, everybody. My name is indeed Inge de Waard, and today's session is about the learning battle, and the battle involves all of us. Now, I will call on some volunteers in a couple of minutes. So let me situate what is expected and what you can do. Now, during these last 2 years, we've been busy with learning solutions, all of us. We have challenges, we were resilient, we solved them, but still we have our gut feeling on what we really think is the best learning solution out there. And that is something to share. And why would you share it? Easy. That's a moment where the others can reflect, listen to it, learn why you did it, how you did it. And then, at a certain point, others will be inspired by you. You can also just stand up and become a real hero. I will tell you how it works. So it's very simple. There are 4 steps involved in this learning battle. I will show you the 4 steps. So I will call up for volunteers in a couple of minutes. You will raise your hand. If I pick one of you, you stand up, you shout, you get a microphone, and in the microphone you say, this is my name. The title of the best learning solution is remote augmented learning or something. And then you start making an argument for it. For whom does it work? What are the benefits? What is it about? How do you do it? And for this you have 4 minutes. There will be a counter there on that screen, 4 minutes. After those 4 minutes, you stop. I will shout out if you haven't seen the counter, but you will stop. Then it's up to the public to pose one question. And that question needs to be answered by that one speaker. Why? Because we want to make sure it's not just a pitch, that they really understand what they're talking about, right? And after that, something really nice happens. We vote. How do we vote? By applauding. But how do we know which learning solution gets the most applause? By an applause meter. Where is the applause meter? Here it is. So let's just gently try out the applause meter. Are there any learning experts in this room? Then applaud yourself. Calibration 1. Now let's give it all you've got. So, are there any fabulous learning experts? Then let's rumble! Calibration 2. We are now ready to start. So, can you feel the anxiety, the enthusiasm, the feeling of I'm going to get my best learning solution out there? Then raise your hands. Who wants to kick off? Don't wait for my glasses. Stick hands up once again. Okay. Let's start with wonderful lady in yellow. Please, take the stage. No, you need to... You can do it from there. Yeah. Ah, Rebecca? It's... Yeah, that's my... Please.
Hello.
4 minutes.
Okay.
Yep.
My name is Stella Collins. The best learning solution, as far as I'm concerned, is brain-friendly learning. For that, I need about 100 volunteers. Please put your right hand in the air. Please imagine that I am the world's expert on neuroscience in learning. And you have been sitting in a session for about an hour. It's warm. It's just before lunch. And you're beginning to feel a bit hungry. This side of the room, up to about there, you're our brainstem. What's our brainstem thinking right now? It's thinking, I'm tired.
In that learning solution. A question, please. If you want to pose a question, raise hand. Otherwise, it's very difficult to see. Yes. Yeah.
Thanks for your thanks for your explanation. Very clear. I think that there's also a social component to learning. How does that fit into your story?
Because we rarely learn on our own. And what we need to do is connect with other people, connect our brains to other people's. And the more we connect with other people, the more we will learn. But also, if we think about oxytocin, which is released when we're connected, that not only helps us feel physically connected, but actually also increases our creative thinking.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Now, let's see the applause meter once again. Did you feel it? Yes! Well done. The first speaker has spoken. Now we are going to look for a second speaker. Who dares to become a hero? Raise hands. Are you a hero? Please, there is a hero here. Can he have a microphone?
I honestly didn't plan on doing this. Rosa got me from the bar to come to the session here, but let's go for it anyway. I'm going to start with a little story. A guy I knew called Frank in Scotland came from a big family, quite a poor family, 8 people. And when he was 40, this was quite a while ago, he phoned me up and he said, "I've bought a bicycle, but I can't ride it. I've been around the back of the guy. I keep falling. I just can't get the hang of riding this bike." It's a true story. And he said, "Have you got any tips for me?" Because he knew I was a keen cyclist. And I said, "Just turn the handlebars in the direction in which you're falling off." Somebody told me this years ago. And he went back and he came back. He said, "That was amazing, Donald. You know, I took the bike out and I got on because it's counterintuitive. You know, you tend to throw them the other direction." And he managed to ride his bike. And it was the first time I realized that learning could be really, really super simple. Like, keep it simple, guys, you know, because everything's over-engineered, I think. And I want to sing the praises of the Humble podcast. So I found myself listening to a hell of a lot of podcasts during COVID. Political podcasts, scientific podcasts, quite esoteric stuff, you know, fun things, Joe Rogan, things on artificial intelligence from Lex Friedman, all sorts of things. Then I started doing a lot of them. So, you know, I used to give a lot of talks and conferences like this. I suddenly found myself doing lots of podcasts on the great minds in learning, and we did a whole series and so on that proved to be very popular. And it's for the first time in my life, my father said, he has no idea what I do for a living, never has. He said, "I listened to one of your podcasts the other day." He said, "It was amazing." You know, it was really an amazing thing for my father. He's 87 years old. And then I said, "Why does this podcast thing work?" And it works because there is no graphics. There is no video. In other words, it's just you and the intimacy. You feel as though you're there with the person in the room, especially when it's 2. You know, you're in the conversation. And I think that's why it does work. So in terms of cognitive load, it gets rid of that. It frees your own imagination to listen carefully, to almost be part of the conversation. And that's why I think it has deeper processing in terms of learning than a lot of the stuff that I've been involved in, you know? High-end video, graphics, interactivity, all that jazz, VR. I've been involved in all those medium. And then suddenly, years later, I come to the realization that something as simple as closing your eyes, or even out on a walk. I got my first dog. I'm 64 years old. I got my first dog at the beginning of COVID. Saved my life. Saved my life, my dog. I love my dog. But I always listen to podcasts when I'm out on a walk with them, you know, because I like that extra sort of stimulation, you know. So I'll end on that. My appeal is for the Humble podcast, the simplest of all medium. We have 2 million years of evolution that has taught us to listen to people and to feel the intimacy of hearing what they've got to say. And that's why I think it's such a lovely medium, and which is why 51% of all Americans listen to them anyway. Forget about learning. It's all informal learning. People don't listen to podcasts to learn. They listen to them because they love them, and they can do them at a convenient time and place. So my appeal is for the Humble podcast. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Give them to the... So, is there... Who wants to ask a question on the best learning solution being podcast? Raise hand, please. One question only. It is easy to become a hero and question another hero. Yes, there.
Thanks a lot. I actually am not a fan of podcasts, but I really liked your talk. I wonder, I understand the point of it's not about learning and it's more about the experience, but still sometimes we are in the position that we have to measure this impact of learning in the end to understand if someone actually learned something. And I haven't really found a way of doing that with podcasts because you never follow up or have the chance to communicate with your listeners. Do you have maybe a solution on that, or is that something that's challenging you?
Interestingly, on video, I'm giving a talk here on the evidence for video. And video is a very interesting medium as well, because the transience effect, like podcasts, you know, it passes you by. You have 30s, you have sort of 20 seconds in working memory. You can only hold 2 or 3 things in your mind at one time. So it suffers badly from the transience effect. both video and audio, which means you have to do something else. This is a great question. And so we were playing around with these podcast format and learning, and what you have to do is add something on. Now, the first thing is take notes. When I listen to serious podcasts, I always have a notepad, I take notes. That will increase retention by about 20 to 30% if you do it in your own words, which is why students take notes in lectures. Transience effect, same thing. So I think there are ways, this is a good question because you have to do more than the podcast. But the great thing about the podcast is the immediacy and personalization of that that first experience. It doesn't solve the whole problem, but boy, does it draw you into a subject. That's what's so lovely about it, because you're using your own imagination. I also think that using your own imagination to engage in the subject matter results in deeper processing and therefore higher retention. But I don't have any data on that. I do have a lot of data that I'll be giving a talk on tomorrow, in fact, about video and how when you do these other things, you get much higher retention on the video experience. So it's a good question. I don't have data on the audio side, but I do on the video side.
Thank you. Thank you. So now, let's see the applause meter once again. And show your enthusiasm. Yes! Oh. Thank you. Now, we heard about podcasts. We heard about brain learning. Who else want to share their best learning solution? This is yours? Oh, yep, please. She has it. She has yeah.
Patrick, I used to be a television producer. I'll help you too.
Yes.
So you don't have to turn around.
That's collaboration.
Okay, my name is Patrick. I'm going to pitch action-based learning because I had trouble going to school because there was a lot of talk. My brain tired very quickly. And the only way I could learn was when someone gave me a problem that I had to solve at the same time, or as problem. So I learned my profession as a producer by myself, by trying and trying. And now I work in a school, and we do everything is action-based, which means basically I want to teach something like television production, and to my students I give them a real client and a real problem. But this means that from the beginning, they're not only learning the theory, they have to actually collaborate, talk, discuss, and solve a problem. And in that way, and then of course they have to make mistakes. And I designed the learning so that all through the journey, I'm trying to understand, maybe a different complex of how to make a talk show or how to make a conference, for example. That's very difficult. Yeah. How to create this meeting. So the only way to do it action-based is to organize a meeting ourselves. And then we learn and discuss and see how well does this challenge go? How can we improve it? And how can we make it better? So an action-based task would be to give me a really good applause in the end. We can practice that. You have now warmed them up. But anyway, action-based learning does not only give the mind something to do, it actually makes learning actually in our whole body, because we get emotional learning as well. Because I have to argue with you about a podcast or not, and I learn a lot from arguing. I also learn a lot from being in groups, presenting, failing, and reflecting. And all this comes... My God, I have a lot of time. All this comes in action-based learning. So do we have any experience of action-based learning here? Oh my God. Not one of you gives them a real case-based learning. Yes, yeah. Case-based learning, yes. Really good schools are based on that. Students learn more effectively. The retention rate is much higher. And also we find that our students are better prepared for the real life. Then when they come out to employment, it's like in our school. It's not like in a school and I had to transfer knowledge. And also, we have real clients. And real clients are really difficult. They don't agree as in a fictional case in the school. Real clients can say, I don't like your solution. And what are we going to do? That's a real life problem, and that helps learning a lot. And we as teachers, we have to facilitate that by helping them through the process. And yeah, that's my pitch. I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, you need to... So, who has a question? Challenging? Yes, there. Thank you very much.
Hi. Very nice. Thanks a lot. I love actually action-based learning myself. It's the way I learn. What I wanted to ask is that from my experience, giving like some action-based exercises and so on, I think sometimes the whole process gets a little bit messier when we're dealing with groups, the instructions, and also specifically with adult learners because they're a little bit more used to the traditional way of working and learning and so on. So what would be your transition for those people that are more used to traditional type of learning to moving smoothly and with no mess to the action-based learning?
I agree. There could be a lot of fear in working this way. And I think that was also one of the benefits of the actual course using action-based is that you get a lot of soft skills. You not only learn problem solving, but you learn soft skills in turning in groups. We always address the issue. I address the issue of what is the resistance, why is this not happening? So not only reflecting on the problem solving, but the process. It helps a lot. And then, of course, creating a safe space. So we have to work with that. And I think my answer to is we address the question. We're not afraid that someone is unhappy or finds it very difficult. It's okay. You come through it. I think that is the thing. You know yet you will come to the end.
Thank you. Now, wait, let's... Applause meter up, please. And... Let me ask another hero to share their speaking skills and their best learning solution. Please, who is next? Yes, you. Please come forward. And you will get a newly, fully disinfected microphone. That's why we are just taking it in. So.
Okay, my name is Jürgen Handke, and I want to talk to you about the teaching model, which I've been applying for more than 10 years. And it combines podcasts, it combines in-class phases, it combines digital teaching and learning. But before I explain how the model works, let's assume something in general. Let's assume that about 50% of the content a teacher has to deliver is basic knowledge. This value can well be justified. I did a number of workshops where I asked professors, teachers, all sorts of people about how much content they have to deliver. Well, look at a course like Mechanics 1 in physics. Look at a course like the Old Testament in theology. Look at a course like Introduction to Linguistics, my field, or Introduction to Lyrics. All these are courses which deliver basic knowledge. What do we do these days when we want to access knowledge? In 2021, we use a phone, we use a mobile device. We have everything on the web in terms of podcasts, in terms of videos, in terms of text, material, images, and so on. So that's the interesting thing. But what do universities do? They send teachers into lecture halls delivering knowledge. Let's say 300 teachers in Germany who do the course Mechanics 1 at the same time in terms of a lecture. 500 teachers in the United States who talk about chemistry in the same term, maybe even at the same time. Isn't that a waste of academic potential? That people deliver basic knowledge these days? Well, this was a question which I asked myself in about 2006 to 2010, and then I decided that I don't want to do this anymore. I digitized all my material, put it on a platform, delivered it to my students, and they were in a scenario of content acquisition in a self-guided format. Well, and in the in-class phases, I could deepen the knowledge with them. I could play games. I could act with them. I could do everything but I didn't deliver knowledge anymore. And when a student asked me, well, what about an allophone? What is it? I said to the student, do what you always do. Google, and I'll be back in 2 minutes, and then we look at your result. This model is the inverted classroom model. And I've been using it, well, for 10 years with good success. And Corona, by the way, didn't affect me at all. Because the content was there, and all I had to do is I had to invent a cohort-based in-class meeting system. And from time to time, I entered into a video conference, but I didn't deliver content there. I just talked to my students and we discussed things. This is the model that I favor, and it is very complex. The problem is that many people do not like to share content as I do, open educational resources. That's a problem. Otherwise, perhaps many more would use this model if they had the digital content. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You can. So, who has a challenge or a question? Please raise your hand. Yes? Someone? Yes. Please. The microphone will come and will be disinfected, just like each time.
Is it on?
Yes.
Simple question. So I work for a consultancy, and it sounds like the inverted classroom that you're talking about is more for public education. I'm just wondering how to apply it in a business setting.
Well, you can, in business settings, I was, for example, consulting tax companies or insurance companies. They have the same problem. They have to deliver content. And this content has to be digitized, and then you have all the time in the world for the in-class phases, so it works extremely well. It works at school, it works at university, it works outside university in adult education. No problem whatsoever. The problem is digitized content. And there the problem is that, for example, the professors at in my country, in German universities, they don't want to cooperate. The degree of envy is too high.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, applause meter up. Let's hear it. Now, I've kept a little analytic here. And I saw that apart from the wonderful Stella, there are no other women willing to share their best learning solution. Now, this could, of course, be because women do not learn. Good, I see no one nodding their head. So,
There's an alternative hypothesis.
please share, Dawn, while I come closer.
Maybe men just like the sound of our own voices.
Okay, taking it, yeah, okay. So, this is a warm call for raising your hand if you are a female learning expert and want to share with the room. Please, come on. You can feel it. You're in a safe environment, I can tell you. I know that some of you, yes, thank you, yes.
So I'm not a learning expert per se, but I've been working for an organization that does learning in humanitarian and development context. And what we found is that the learning that works best is some learning that is co-designed with the audience that you want to reach. And that's because when you involve them in the design of your works, such that be an just an online learning? Would that be a face-to-face learning? Would that be a game, a VR solution? You get to learn a bit more about them. You get to learn the language that they prefer to use. They get to learn the jargon that you want to use or not in your learning solution. You get to know what kind of images they would like to see, they can relate to. And in that way, their experience while they learn is much more intense, and the result and the impact that the learn has in terms of behavioral change is much higher. So when you think about learning, especially for us in those kind of contexts, it's really important to get closer to the learner, to get the learning contextualized per se, and have them involved always enriches that experience.
Thank you. Yes. So, a question on the context of learning. Please raise your hand and pose your question. Nobody dares. Yes, there it is. Ah, here. Yes. Oh,
Don't choose me, choose somebody else.
I lost. Ah, there in the back, indeed.
Thank you. This sounds very interesting. I was wondering, how do you collect data from your audience? Is it the same people, or is it just like the same group, like, I don't know, business users or like school staff or similar?
Thank you. That depends on the kind of learning. So we normally do focus groups with the different people that we want to reach, and we create those focus groups depending on the audience, the target audience, and the end users. And then we also collect data about the impact that these learning then have had on the people that use this. And that could be depending on the methodology. If it's learning that we host online, we get it from the platform. If it's learning that we have face-to-face, then we do some survey and feedback forms. Thank you.
Thank you. So again, the applause meter up. Da, da, da. Yes! Once again, who wants to be a hero? Yes, there, the person. Yes, stand up, please. Thank you. Introduce yourself and
Thank you. Hi,
you have the floor.
I'm Kader. And what was your name? Thank you. Nice to meet you. I'm glad I can follow up on you. And I'm sorry I'm not a woman, but usually people think I'm a woman on the phone with my voice. But anyway, I digress. So I'm glad to be here. My name is Kader. I teach in Boston, at a school in Boston. And I wanted to follow up after what you said, because what we've been talking about a lot is this idea of deeper learning, and how do we achieve that, and what it is that we need to do in order to get there. But first I'm going to ask a question to the audience. If you could play with me for 30 seconds. Could you stand up if you think that there are some radical changes that need to be brought to education in the way people teach and learn? Do you agree with that statement? Yes, I agree that there should be some radical changes in the way people teach and learn. All right. Thank you. You can sit down. It's good for the blood, by the way. You know. So this idea that we're all here thinking that we should have some kind of thought around how people teach and learn. I've heard a lot of great ideas from the brain, the podcast, and all that, the action-based learning, which we also do. Really here to encourage people about thinking about the role of the students. We hear a lot about the role of what teachers can bring to the table, not enough about what the kids can bring to the table. And we've been really thinking in the last few years about changing that paradigm, about how we involve the kids into that, and when we want the kids to be designers of their own learning experience, as opposed to passive recipient of, sure, I have a great activity for you, it's going to engage you for 10 minutes, but is it going to be deeper learning? Is it going to go far? Will you remember that for a long time? Will you be able to do that? So this whole idea of the kids learning by doing, and going into an inquiry that they choose, that they're mastering because they want to explore those topics, is really what we try to provide for the kids. So we engage them in an inquiry approach where it needs to be authentic, it needs to have a meaningful purpose, they need to design with a purpose, it needs to reach an authentic audience, it has to be real, not realistic, real. It has to mean something for them and mean something for the audience they're trying to reach. We're also making sure that they have choice and agency in that it's not like, I'm giving that to you and you'll have a grade at the end, or you're going to be assessed at the end. So a lot of the time, those are kind of, from the perspective of the teachers, the adults, I want to know how I can assess you. I want to know how to measure that. But it's not necessarily what the kids need. And in order to learn the fact that we think we should assess them or measure their success one way or another, it's not necessarily how they're going to actually get into better learning. But this idea of choice, agency, inquiry, authenticity, those are meaningful elements that actually take the kids to another level and then provide things that they create and they mean something to them and they're relevant. They see themselves represented in that work, and I think a deeper engagement as well. So I have only 30 seconds to go. But I'm going to put a shameless plug that tomorrow I'm presenting with two other fantastic presenters. So if you want to come, I'd love to see you there. And thank you. I'm going to yield the microphone.
Thank you. So who has a question on integrating the students as an important factor for learning, which I agree with totally. There? Yes?
Hi, can you hear me? Yeah, okay. So actually I'm just asking the two people that have the type of learning that I really, really like. All these kind of inquiry-based, project-based, and action-based learning, it's perfect for me. I was just wondering, in the scenario, which is not very far from the reality, that as a teacher, you really need to follow a curriculum which is attached to certain learning goals. And sometimes it goes from year to year, and you really need to make sure that the children have acquired the knowledge they need to acquire by the end of this year to move on to the next one. How do you prove that this happens in a way also that the interests of the children are also involved in this inquiry-based process? So, thank you.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I think my response is unfortunately going to be short, but
it's okay.
Because it would take much longer presentation. But look at COVID. When we had COVID, it took us to different things, but we all had to make decisions, yeah? The thing is, which one do you prioritize? Do you prioritize the kids, how they learn, or do you prioritize the curriculum? If we start with the curriculum and say, the curriculum is here, and we need to fit in the kids one way or another, I think that's the wrong way. And I know that there are governmental and state things like, in the US it's the same, that you have to follow. But I think there are techniques, strategies about trying to make sure that the kids are prioritized as opposed to the curriculum, and focusing on skills that are actually going to lead them to deeper learning, as opposed to trying to say, by June 5th or 10th, I need to finish this part of my curriculum otherwise. And I know that during COVID, some of us, in the US at least, used that sentence. I don't know if you've ever seen the Marie Kondo, those Netflix shows about folding your clothes well and making space in your life. This idea that you should also Marie Kondo the curriculum and focus on the kids as a starter. That was my response. But and by the way, I haven't slept in 48 hours because of the trip. So please don't hold me to what I said. I may not even remember.
Thank you very much. please, the applause meter up. Yes. Now we have time for 2 more, and it was already interesting because there were tools, there were approaches, there were methodologies. So if you feel like speaking, this is the time to raise your hands. I see 2 hands raised. Yes, Tom in the back, please, take the mic.
Thank you. Inge, I actually only need 30 seconds, so you can give a third speaker also the room. So because I'm going to respect the KISS principle.
Stand up that they can see your beautiful face. Thank you.
As I have 30 seconds, I can take it also very slow. No, respecting the KISS principle that Donald was already mentioned, keep it simple and structured. What I did, I have been crowdsourcing on the collective intelligence of the 8 predecessors that already took the floor. And if I listen carefully to them, then the solution would be, and listen carefully, it would be self-generated, action-based and co-created flipped learning with lots of open source chocolate-flavored brains, mediated through slow podcasts and deep immersive and authentic learning experiences. And that's it. Stop.
But there is a question coming your way. Yes, please, question.
Hello, I'm Karen. Could you please repeat it without looking at your cell phone?
Yes.
I'll try, because actually, and I'll make the use, I have still 3 minutes to introduce the concept where I'm coming from, because what we tend to have in conferences, and when we listen carefully, I try to do that, maybe I'll try again, it would be self-guided, co-created. You see, I'm already losing it. There was something of open source, chocolate, deep podcasts, and so on. No, what I wanted to come through that in this kind of conference you see tons of different things that you need to absorb, and that sometimes my capacity to absorb is quite limited. And something that I discovered throughout the whole COVID thing was basically that kind of slowing down. Now I work in a training center which is based in the north of Italy, Turin, if you know where that exactly is. It's known for its slow food movement. And if you dive deep behind the slow food movement, you could also be very interested to apply the same principles to kind of slow learning, to really digesting what I've actually really heard, because I was actually not able to repeat myself after having read the things that I was taking note of. So it would be a kind of a pledge to take one step back, not through the disruption of COVID, but in general, and mainly move on to this. And probably there's a lot of new hypes and labels on metacognitive learning, double learning loops and so on, but also just to take one step back, reflect a little bit deeper, and maybe the deeper sensation that Donald was mentioning in his podcast, try to find that one, not only in podcasts, but throughout the whole, let's say, educational spectrum. And that's what I would make, let's say, a plea for. Still have 1 minute and a half, so I can continue, but I won't do so. That's it. It's like a pledge for slow learning in fast times. Okay.
Oh, thank you. So for slow learning, the applause meter goes up. Now, for the last speaker, after which we will learn who has won the Best Learning Solution trophy. Who wants to speak for the last speaker? Yes, please.
Hello again, Berlin. Took a long time to say that. Name, Bert. You don't need to remember that. Gender. I think I tick all the boxes. I see myself as male, female, and I'm still a child. I'm my own family. Please do not remember that either. Title. Practice, practice, practice. Do remember that. So there I was in the second lockdown. I already knew all the names of the cows in my village in my daily walk. And then it dawned on me that
most of what we're doing de facto in practice is content, right? Courses full of content. I mean, all these sponsors here, most of them, J'accuse, and also thank you for sponsoring the conference, very content-centric platforms. And I think we nailed it sufficiently as a profession. We nailed it sufficiently. We have gamified it, made it bite-sized, made it pretty, made it accessible, made it mobile, made it into podcasts, and maybe even brain-friendly or not. I think we're there. So then I thought we could keep doing that for years more and make it better, and then what's really going to be the learning impact of that? Or we could focus on some of the other things that are also important for giving people capabilities or helping them develop them. And I landed on practice, practice, practice. What if we got a lot better at providing people meaningful practice? And it comes in a lot of different flavors, I know. I mean, if it's more technical skills, then maybe it's virtual labs or real equipment that you toy with. I don't know, solar panel installation kind of skills. In my field, which is more, how do we call it now? Soft skills or power skills or people skills or that stuff. I actually landed off all the stuff you could be doing all the way from simulations and all the way to internships and job shadowing and all of that. I landed on role plays as a low-hanging fruit, on really giving people some nice role plays to do and to observe and to give feedback on. But that's just one example. So, and the last thing I'm going to say there is, digital content is easy to scale up and therefore democratize and so on. Access to meaningful practice, not so much, specifically not if you go into the real job kind of mentoring and I always see it as like cheap slave labor, but the internships and those whole systems. And we need to think about as well to make sure people have access to that, because that may be more important than having access to the content. Remember, practice, practice, practice. Thank you.
Thank you. Just wait a moment.
Whatever question you have, the answer is 42.
Any question will do for that answer, please. Who wants to pose the question? Yes? Stella?
I have a colleague who says that it used to be told that practice makes perfect, but actually practice makes permanent. And I think we need to be really clear that how do you ensure that you have the right practice?
Which one? How do
you ensure you have the right practice to make sure that people are really learning to do the things they need to do?
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit the same with content. You need to make sure people have the same content and access to the right expert and so on. So I'm not saying just leave it to chance, because people don't just learn from doing. You need to surround with it the proper practice, the cases that stand out, that are realistic enough, that happen enough, with the kind of feedback loop you're looking for. Usually with role plays, for example, the rubric in which you help people look at the role play is an important piece there, but fully agree. Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I go now?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. So, for the last speaker, applause meter up. Yes. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm thinking that there's like some ties here, but we will ask in a minute. I do hope that you already have some extra ideas on where to go to for next sessions, digging deeper on one of these topics that were spoken upon. Donald, please. Rebecca, please.
Rebecca, can you come up? So as you get up on stage for the last time, so the light's good. I counted 9 sessions. I really enjoyed that. I learnt a lot. I thought it was brilliant the way people were jumping up, doing things, especially if it felt a bit uncomfortable, jumping up and sharing your ideas because they were all valuable. So thank you so much. Of the 9, can we have the top 3 in reverse order, please, Rebecca?
First of all, apologies for not remembering all the names. So at the 3rd place, we have all the context of different approaches in learning, and that was the lady at the back.
Oh, yes. Okay. Very good. Humanitarian woman, yeah. Yeah, that was really interesting.
At the 2nd place, we have the full action-based learning.
Okay.
I'm going to announce the 1st place.
I kind of want one of those dramatic silences, but let's just go ahead and see who's first.
Okay, the 1st place goes to Stella with the brain in learning.
There we are. Okay, Stella, you have to come up. You have to come up. And in a minute, you know what I'm going to ask you to do, because you can figure out how this all works. But let's have a round of applause for Stella as Inge awards her this magnificent trophy. It is kind of, well, you won't forget it, will you? I mean, it's bright.
Beautiful,
Beautiful.
absolutely beautiful.
Thank you. You don't have to worry about taking it back to UK, or sorry, to Antwerp, Belgium. We're going to keep it, but we are going to put your name on the side, and I hope this is going to be a tradition for the future. You can put it down, otherwise your arm might drop off.
We do have something that Stella can take home.
Wow, thank
you. A tea advent calendar and cookies. Oh, my cookies. Yay! Please.
I know you would have preferred a chocolate advent calendar, but tea is the best we can do.
I think tea advent calendar sounds pretty good. I am
Fantastic.
still British.
Who invented this? Who put it all together? Whose idea was it? Who did such a great job running it? Inge de Waard. Can we have the last biggest round of applause for Inge, please? Thank you so much. That's it. That's a wrap for this evening. It's been a fun start. I hope you agree. Looking forward to seeing everybody tomorrow morning in here, whatever time that is. It's 9:30?
9:30.
9:30. Looking forward to that. Have a great evening. And in the meantime, look after yourselves and stay safe. Thank you so much.
Thank you.